Google Cloud was recently in the news because they accidentally deleted a customer account. And this customer happens to be UniSuper, an Australia-based company that manages pension and retirement funds for over 500,000 customers. Now, when Google deleted UniSuper's account, they also wiped out all the data belonging to UniSuper. That means 500,000 customers lost access to their accounts and fund-related information. Now here we have an unexpected disaster scenario because the cloud provider itself was partly responsible for causing the complete data loss. Now both these companies did issue a joint statement where they refer to an inadvertent misconfiguration when provisioning UniSuper's cloud services, which resulted in complete deletion of the account. Now this statement is not very clear and it doesn't explain what exactly happened and how Google managed to delete a customer account. Hopefully, in the future, they will come out with more details on exactly what happened. In the meanwhile, there are a few things that we need to be aware of as customers to protect against scenarios like this. Now, what will happen if you accidentally close your account? Now, in case of AWS, there is a 90-day grace period. So during which, if you close your account, you can always go back and reopen it within the 90-day window, and your content will still be there. Now, I don't know what will happen to databases because databases are servers running some software. So there is a possibility that you might lose your databases. AWS claims that they maintain all your content and services will be accessible again for you. So this seems like a clean, nice default setting. Now, in case of AWS, we have a clear organization in terms of accounts, whereas Google has a different way of hierarchy. They organize the resources under project. Now, if you accidentally delete a project, now you do have a 30-day recovery period, but here is where it gets confusing. Some of the resources such as cloud storage are deleted much sooner. So if you delete a project, there is a possibility of total data loss with Google Cloud. Now let's look at some disaster recovery principles on how you can protect yourself from scenarios like this. In general, you have your resources and data stored in a primary region. So to prevent against accidental data loss, you also maintain a backup copy locally in the same region. So in case if you lose some data here, you can quickly access your local copy and restore it back. Now, in case if you lose your entire region, you also lose your backup stored in that region. So to protect against this scenario, you also need to maintain a cross-region backup in a second region. We'll call this as a disaster recovery region. So here you maintain a cross-region backup so that if you lose this entire region, you can come to this DR region and restore your systems and data. There is one more thing that you need to be aware of. Now let's assume that you have both these copies inside the same account. When you have the primary systems as well as the DR copies in the same account, here's one possible failure point. Now let's say if a hacker gets in, now they can go after your primary data with malware or ransomware and so forth. Now this system is compromised, and since your DR copy is also in the same account, it is also exposed. So they can go after your disaster recovery copies as well, and they can compromise your disaster recovery copies. So this is another failure point to consider. So don't put your primary and DR copies inside the same account. So instead, what we recommend is that you keep your primary in one account, and then you maintain your DR copies in a separate account, and then you do a cross-region copy. Now with this scenario, you have on this side of the fence, you have different set of people who have access to the primary system, has access to create new copies of your data and then store the data in the DR region. So they cannot go and modify this data, no access to no modify or delete privileges. And then on this side of the fence, you have different set of administrative controls and people who have access to your DR data. Now, another variant of this setup is that you can also maintain a backup in an external site outside of your cloud environment. So this could be another cloud provider, or you can use a third party to manage your backups. So this provides another level of protection where in case if you lose both your primary as well as your DR sites, then you fall back to this external backup to restore your data. Now, this is what happened in UniSuper case. They maintained their backup in another cloud provider. They didn't disclose who that cloud provider is. So using this backup, they were able to restore all their data back. Now let's talk about a scenario where some hackers or somebody got into your primary system and they compromise your primary systems and they manage to introduce malwares and ransomwares and so forth. So your primary system is unusable at this point. Now, if you take a backup of this compromised primary system, your backup is also compromised. So which in turn means that your DR copy is no longer usable. Now, in this case, not only do we need to take a backup, we also need to know which of these backups are clean and not infected. Now, at this year's RSA Expo, I had the opportunity to visit and talk to people at Rubrik. So this company has an interesting philosophy. They manage the backups for you. They take the backup and they put it in their own cloud environment. And on top of that, they also scan the backups for malicious software. All the backups that you maintain within Rubrik is all immutable. That means the backups cannot be modified. They will also pinpoint which version of your backup is infected and which one is clean. So this gives you one more level of protection because not only you're having backup, you also know which backup is clean and safe to restore. So these are some things that you want to consider when coming up with a disaster recovery strategy. Hope this video was useful. Please check the video description for more useful links. Thank you.